15, something like that. Anyway, so we're gonna romp through my life a little bit, especially current, but oh yeah, so we'll just, I don't know what I did. I put together this slideshow, so here we go. I'm much better at showing work. And if you want to see my work, I do have it in the, where I'm staying at the Atwood House, and I can bring it tomorrow. If anybody wants to see the real stuff, just tell me and I'll bring it. So this is a shining moment of mine from Women's Studio. That's a print of mine in the back, and that's Stephanie Bell's arm, and she had a tattoo made of part of my print. And Stephanie Bell was the cook here, I don't know how many years ago, and was my student at at University of Delaware, and then was an intern here as well. And now is she's doing an internship with, she's becoming a stage designer in Manhattan. So that's that. And then I put this in because this is a silkscreen that I think I've applied for and gotten, which is great averages, 2 grants in my life. And I'm not really big on grants. And so one of them was to come here and learn silkscreen. Because I had a sign shop back in the day, but I didn't use it. Like I had it as a business, but it was all oil-based, and you clean your screens with lacquer, and I didn't want to do that, and I didn't learn it. So anyway, I came here, and I guess I learned silkscreen. I'd have to ask Anne, but it was a rough experience, to say the least. And I'm like really not good working in a group at all with my, I'm just not. I'm not good at all. And so pretty much everyone had to walk around we were eating in the back behind the silkscreen area, and they'd have to actually almost like walk around the studio. They wouldn't even walk through anymore. My vibe was so intense. And every once in a while Anne would come in and say things like, what you see is what you get. Now this is like an etcher, I'm an etcher and a lithographer, so that was a tough lesson. Oh yeah, so there's me. So I've always wanted to be a printmaker. This is me in Germany, and this is what my mother said about me, and it is true, that I live like dogs are chasing me. So I'm like, I think I need glasses. What do you think? But I mean, my hand, you can see my hand like that all week, right? And so I was busy, and I do things intensely. And that's me. And then I'm just going to go real quick. I'm not going to stay in high school for long, okay? Just for a second. But I did this in high school. So I was like saved. I grew up saved. No. I grew up right outside of Philadelphia, New Jersey. And there was a foundation that everybody went to where you could do figure drawing and clay and you name it. And it's still there. It's called Fleischer. And so I went twice a week and learned figure drawing there, which got me through being in high school and not yet allowed to be a printmaker. So that person who ran that place for years has become really important to me. This is me in college. So I drew, and I snuck into, we had one semester. We could still go into an anatomy lab. This is at Syracuse University. And I don't think you can do that anymore. But for the rest of my time at Syracuse, I learned how to get in that anatomy lab and keep drawing there by, you just use a clipboard basically. Make sure you know what it looks like you're going somewhere with a clipboard. So that's the anatomy, and so that's important to see that kind of work, I guess, to me, to see how my work has evolved. I have 2 major influences in my life, art-wise. If you're in a class of mine, you're going to hear this name, Stanley William Hayter, and there he is. And that's the name right there, that's not him. And the shop was called Atelier 17, and I can go on and on about it, but I won't. But look at those people. No, I was too frightened. And they actually, Margot Dolan told me it was a good idea that I didn't go, because he was actually very irascible by the time I would have met him. But look at these guys, they're like little puppies, like all together, printing. And so if you don't know, if you are an intaglio person and you don't know who this person is, I just have to say you need to look him up. So he is the father, basically, of abstract expressionism and experimentation in intaglio. And being able to use things like the subconscious, which was a really big deal in the 1940s, to explore, like, so it's the opposite of surrealism, that's Dali, it's the abstract expressionism kind of surreal, that. Okay, so anyway, he's really important to me for many reasons. One, workshop. Two, the way he approached work. The second influence is litho. So that is not me, and that's kind of the kind of press I would use. Oh yeah, after college I went and joined the circus for real, and drew portraits. And so that says after the circus, because there was this big bunch of time where I just drove around in my Camaro with the back seat out and followed the circus and drew portraits. And then when I settled down, I learned litho. And I realized that with the litho I had learned in school was not much of a litho experience. I went to try to get a job as a lithographer. And the guy just laughed his head off. I mean, he had no idea what I was talking about. He thought it was hysterical. I showed him, like, stone lithos of my boyfriend's shoes. And this was a giant magazine that had big offset presses, and he didn't even know this existed anymore. He said I was barely good enough to clean the darkroom. Oh. And I said, I thought to myself, wow, I must not know something. Like, this guy might know something. So I said, sold, I'll clean the darkroom. I got to learn this, right? So from that, I went to being able to run a big offset press and learning stripping and negatives and all that stuff. And so I ended up doing chromist work for Marina Picasso, who is Picasso's granddaughter. And they were done as reproductions. I would have a reproduction of the painting, and I would copy it, literally, with Mylars, and draw it, and then have to work with a printer and a colorist and make these things. And so the reason that this was cool was, for me, was because there was no other way I was going to be able to make a 36 color litho and learn how to do that. And that's what I wanted to do. So that's my other influence. Flatbed offset press. So they exist in the world, and they are documented, and it does say who I am, and it's not like, they were snuck into like the IFBDA show, like as true Picassos, but they really do exist in the world, and I have all them. Like the Mylars ended up being more valuable than the pieces probably, but anyway, so there's litho and there's etching, and I've always had the two of them. So when I make a work, okay, we're almost to the present day. They get complicated because I will go between silkscreen litho and etching, or all of intaglio, because I think all the mediums have their best reasons for being. And so I'm going to grab which one makes more sense to me. So this is the mess that it will look like. Go ahead.
What's intaglio?
Etching. Okay. So the bigger umbrella word for etching is intaglio, meaning collagraphs and all the other things that you can do. So there, I make lots of proofs. My paper is always sekishu at this point. I keep the paper the same because I need a couple of constants in the world of the variables. This was a show that I did in Philly at Second State Press of process, so you can see, I don't know. I tried to explain like my process, so there it is. There were lots and lots of these little dioramas. There's a bucket. So I do a lot of looking. I've meditated for 43 years. I look at things constantly. I don't have a sketchbook. I mean, we all do. So I understand that. But it's like I put that bucket in the middle of our house, and the light would fall on it. You can see the ferret drips on it. And I wouldn't let my husband move it because I wanted to see the sun on it at different times of day for about a month. And he said, can we move the bucket? No, we cannot move the bucket. So, this is me trying my best in Illustrator to say, look, there's different shades of green, and they all really matter, and how they go together. So that's my litho background coming in, right? That kind of layering thing that's really important to me. And then I live in the country, not this kind of country, farmland country, and little, like most of us, this stuff, right? The peach pits and the figs and the magnolias thing at the top. All of these things are something that I need to investigate a lot. And I don't really refer to them at all in my work. I collect them, I get rid of them, whatever happens, and later I realize, oh my God, like the fig's exactly the same colors as that, you know, or the piece is the same as the figs, or that peach is the same kind of form. So I absorb it that way. And my sketchbooks look like this. That's it. They're diagrams. And good luck. I've learned that I need to date them because sometimes I go back and do the exact same diagram again, like, oh yeah, I already thought that all through. It was stupid the first time. So that's my sketchbooks. So now this is what my work looks like, and I'm going to just go through a few of these. This is 2 by 3 feet, and it's printed on the back and the front of a piece of sekishu, and there is relief and etching and mezzotint and spit bite, so it's mostly all in the Italia studio. But like all of us, and I'm no different than anybody, but I really don't like that you can't see much of the detail because that's where I spend my time putting it in. So like there's that little section there, then I can blow it up and show you, you know, more like what I was interested in looking at right there. Or here's a little, there it is again, and here's that little section right there. So that those 2 mezzotints are each 3 inches. Well, one's a spit bite and one's a mezzotint. And this, I can talk a little bit about content. I really can. This one is called On Any Given Day. And it's about, they come together slowly and they're not formed at all when I'm working. In the beginning, they're not formed, but I have a kind of an idea that's a diagram. And so on any given day, I guess I heard it from sports. There's 6 little mezzotints on the right there, and there's the 1 mezzotint spit bite on the left here in gray. And so the idea of on any given day in sports is that anything can happen on any given day. It's like, I think, a football thing. So I was thinking of it more like on any given day, you could have a nice day. There's 6 days that are nice right there in a row with a nice green. And also on that day, somebody could die, which was probably at that point my mother. And so, you know, then it's split up, it's black and white, it's a whole different deal. And so that was where I got to in that piece. There's lots more, like the marks are linoleum, and that looks kind of like writing. That kind of wolf guy appeared in the top. He's kind of pretty and kind of scary. So I could keep going about that, but that's the idea. So here is the mezzotint spit by itself. They were sheen played on afterwards. So didn't do the best job cropping, I can see. So here's a piece that is linoleum on the top that was actually etched and etching. On the bottom is a very big rubber stamp of a fountain that was also a litho, that was also an etching. When I get an idea and I want it to be a thing, I'm going to get it to work. I'm going to try every medium until I make it happen. So this was actually a very big rubber stamp that I printed on copper paper and then stamped it in just transparent base. And that worked out well. And you can't really see much unless I do this. And that's why I can't stand slides. This piece is whatever 18 times 3 is across. And so it's got relief and mezzotint and etching. And the thing is, though, it's bigger than this. And what I really want you to look at is that. So when you get up close, it's got this whole other armature architecture thing going on. Almost done. So these are like 10 years old, 6 years old. Like they're a while ago. This one is called, I don't remember, Still Life with Rose. And there's a detail. So there's a photo etching, there's a relief, there's a whole bunch of lithos, there's a screen print, there's a piece of cardboard that got printed just in this section. And there's another section of it. The blue is an etching, the landscape is an etching, behind it is all litho. And then I just did, so I wanted to show you this because I have friends that are almost neighbors that run this Rizzo place called Resolve, and we did a book, like that I was allowed to do a book with them. It was like 43 people did the book. And so I've been playing with Rizzo, and so that means I'm playing digitally, and it's really, really fun. So that's what I did. I took this piece apart and I did this like maybe a month and a half ago. So now I want to talk a little bit just about my life, like we're at the present day. So Printmakers Open Forum, the title came from, I don't know, lunchtime talks along like a while ago when I taught it more. And that's my husband and that's me, and that's pretty much what our energy's like. Pretty straightforward, that's us, a lot. He got me to marry him because he said we would be wearing pith helmets and having adventures. I thought, well, that's fun. Oh, and he also said, I'll build you a shop. So I moved from New Jersey, and he moved from way up north on Lake Superior, Wisconsin, really quick, and we got married, and he did build me a shop. So I lived there, and so I live an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes from Philadelphia, 5.5 or some godforsaken amount of time from here, but really close to Maryland also. In the country, which feels awkward because I'm from New Jersey and there's no water and it's too country for me, but that's just the way it goes. So he did build a shop. We put up a pole shed really fast. And we do this like in stages with our money. Like we don't have any money, we just throw all the money into this thing. Like we make money and just don't have it. So the pole shed went up really fast, so there it is. And there it is. And so it was 36 by, I don't know, 36 by 64. And so that is like 2009, and then we ran out of money and we left it alone anyway because he said, we don't want anybody thinking too hard about this. Just like leave it here. And for being from Jersey, it's like they call this a shed where I am. This is a shed. I'm thinking, how much zoning would you need if this were like in Lambertville or someplace, right? So, yeah, this is a shed. Yeah, it's a pole barn. This is a shed. It's nothing. And that's our house there. And you can see the progression. So when we got, my mother gave us some money when she died. Enough, just barely enough. She said her second to last words were, build a shop to me. The last thing she said was, be good to your husband. So anyway, I did those two things. I tried really hard. So we started with the concrete, and that's him, and I had to work that day in there, and it was one of the worst days of my life. It was so hard, because everybody, like, bagged out of making it. They just didn't show up. And so I had to run the screed. It was so intense. It was unbelievable. So anyway, that happened. I bought a press that was available really fast all of a sudden, and we hermetically sealed it after that. So this is a 4 by 8 foot Takish that's kind of been an albatross to me because I can't get that big yet. I've been trying so hard. So it was in Bennington, which we talked about, and then it was Kenneth Nolan's Takish, and he never used it. I think he flattened paper with it once. So there it is. Here's the shop, and I don't have to go through too much of this, except for a lot of the stuff was purchased at, same thing, Habitat for Humanity, like at Restore, which is a great place to get things. So this is the front room this is the silk screen room, man. And then this room is called the processing room, and everything that has a stink to it happens in this room. And my husband built he's a special ed teacher. He works in a special ed residency place. I don't know how he knows how to do this stuff, but he built those vents, and that's a big spray booth. So I tell him what I need, and then he tries to figure it out. I guess he's kind of an engineer. Like, I need a thing that has a vent, and it has to pull this hard. And then that's him trying to figure it out. So this is, it's finished. So you can see the pieces, like, in context of the shop. And everything's on wheels, so it moves all around, because I have had workshops there, so I can separate everything out and make it so that people can work there. And I think I have a couple, there's another picture. So that's the press room. There's a Takish there, and then there's 2 little presses in the back. One is a Japanese press called a Nihon Shinzoki that came from Frontline that they should have never got rid of. Gave it to me for $100. The other one is a brand that was free. And then there's a Conrad litho press over there on the left. And we fought like hell about those glass windows because I thought it was a big waste of time. Like, why do I need that glass into the processing room there? Like, just forget it. Taking time. Like, we already had the glass, but just take more time. And I'm so happy it's there because, I don't know, it's more light and airy, I guess. And the ventilation system is really simple. There's exhaust in the one processing room, which is a whole one thing. But then the ventilation is a fan blowing out. And you can see that PVC pipe up there with holes. And so just, I forget whether it blows in or out. I can't remember, but anyway, it's not hard, but you have to have ventilation in the room. I realized that. We're sitting in there, and it was all fine, except it was completely dead air.
Right.
Like, you couldn't breathe.
Got exchanges, maybe.
Something, but we don't have HVAC. Like, if there's air conditioning and I turn those things on, guess what? It all goes out. So that's the way it goes. I mean, this is as good as we can do. This is the processing room done. This is silk screen. The hot plate's not there anymore. And there is now a silk screen exposure unit that looks somehow exactly like the one here. Gee, I think I took measurements. And there's a dark box that you put the screens in. And that's a washout sink. So then this is the other view for the processing room. That box at the back there is where the litho exposure unit is. And a lot of this stuff I just accrued over time. Like, accrue is the word. I had that exposure unit under my bed for 25 years. I would just be exposed. You only expose at night and you pull it out from under your bed. This is how you work. So now it's there. So a lot of this thing, I don't know where I got the hot plate. Somewhere, somebody gave me a hot plate, so it just went someplace. So that's how this stuff happened. That sink is definitely from Habitat for Humanity. And then, so that's what it looked like, done. And now in the back of there, we put on greenhouse. There is no we in this world. He, but with my prodding and help, we put a greenhouse on the back that is actually going to be, because it's really expensive to heat, like super expensive to heat. So we did passive air solar, and it's not finished yet because he wasn't done in the fall, and I started to really have to do work for a show, so I just kicked him out, but it will be done. So right now it's just drying, cheesecloths. And also, it's really good for sauna. So here is a workshop that I did, which was okay. I think this is like 2 years ago. And we take expeditions because we feel like it, and I got that because I went with 4 Women's Studio to Tuscany one year. Now next year we went to Finland, and that was fun, and we did pronto plates, and the place where we went was, they did photo etching. And it was on the solstice. So this is 1 in the morning. And that was the place where everybody stayed, and then we ended up having to stay with the grown-ups in the other house, which wasn't really fun at all. But that's okay. Oh well. And that thing was really great. It must be wonderful. That thing on the left, if you can cook in there, and in the middle of the winter, it must be great. So this is that workshop. Again, on the left, that's like 1 in the morning during the solstice, way up north. I mean, it was very cool. I look at these pictures and I think, wait a minute, she wasn't printing that during the day. And I think, oh yeah, it was always day. And so it was like 10 or 12 days, and I started really needing darkness. Like, I was desperate for darkness. So that's, there they all are. So it was really fun, and one of my friends was the cook for the thing. A little bit more, we're going to do some of what I do in terms of research, like just, I guess, for the print community. So we do, like, there's a ventilation system that I can show people, and people ask me for, and it's just for the exhaust early on. And here, I don't think the internet works, does it? Like, can we hit that and see if it works? There's no way to do that, is there? So some of this stuff is really, really simple. But anyway, it doesn't have to work. So that, so if you click that, it should go to something.
Oh.
There it is. Good. So hit that little. This is the exhaust. This is how to stop the exhaust in litho. There. That's how to. And then, it's really all pieces that we put together, like that's a vent, and then there's PVC pipes, and the middle part that turns is actually a piece of Easy Cut that's for carving relief. So, you know, put together all DIY. And so the one thing that I've done, and I think this one does the same thing, but I don't know. The one thing that's really bothered me a lot are rags for my whole life. Like, what do you do with the rags? You throw them out, it drives me nuts. So I was fortunate enough to have a person come to a workshop and bring with her her husband, who was like the head of graduate chemistry at Kansas State. So of course I'm gonna like pick his brain about what to do with the rags. So we've got a rag recycling system that he said, just try this and see if it works. And it works really well if you use soy salt. And it's basically washing soda. So I've been recycling my rags for 3 years. And the reason I like that is because, I don't know, I'm trying to be somewhat environmentally sound. And we use so much paper. And I just so much that I wanted to make it kind of stop being so heavy in terms of my footprint. Was just ridiculous. And also, you know, the only people that get to use like good rags are like colleges. You get out of college and you can't do that anymore. And guess what? Those are all dry cleaned, and so you could be allergic to them in like 5 seconds anyway. So I'm not going to go through the whole rag recycling, but you know, it exists in my shop. So it takes about 72 hours to go through its little washing soda process. The inside of that box is aluminum. It's got aluminum in it because the soy salt will eat through anything, as we know. And I had to lock it all up because I was using it not locked, and then I had to go talk at the guy said, I'll do all this if you go talk when you're done at the something, like American Chemists something convention. And I realized that, this was like, my husband's name is Dale, like, Dale, you have to build a box, like right now. No, this weekend, now. We need a picture of it. Because I realized it can't just be out in the open, because what if it spills and there's a baby? Like, you can't have, like, rag soy salt stuff all over a baby or a dog. So it's locked up, which is better. So there's the soy salt. We don't have to go through this. It's on my website, and it's also on YouTube. So it's not hard, but you do have to wear gloves and a mask. And it is in the processing room, and it's very cool to have recycled rags. So a little bit of my work real quickly. Last year I did 15 by 15 model prints for a year, and there were 35 of them. There's an influence and there's the piece. I mean, I don't know, that looks like a direct relationship to me. That's what my shop looked like last year. So I was getting used to taking over the space, I guess. And so these are all in process. That's what was Silkscreen. And then here are a few of them. And I don't want to go through too much, like I could go through what all of these mean, but that's like shorthand that my mother would write constantly. She was an executive secretary and she knew shorthand, and that says, I don't know what it says, something about me being an artist. Never written down. And so these are what they look like now. Done. So it took a year. I thought it was going to take 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months, and it was a while. And so what ended up being, and probably, I don't know, Anne will think this is perverse, and it is, but I ended up having to make like a litho for that piece. You know, an entire litho plate because I needed a litho to go on that one print, or a silkscreen that just went on that one print. But then some things are recycled, like you can see that mezzotint up there. So that was last year, and so the Sandra Graf, who is somewhere in this room, designed the catalog book for me, and so it's here, and you guys are welcome to look through it. So there it is, so you don't have to do that. And that was really hard and really good. And then here's my shop, and I'm almost done. So we did 2 workshops, and I didn't like them. So yeah, I plant a lot of stuff. I have like a problem with that. I can't leave the house without like buying a willow tree. It's really like, oh my god. So I had this idea. I didn't like the workshops at all. Like they weren't making me happy because people would leave, like and go eat like crabs on the Chesapeake or something. But that was fine, except for that if they're not in the shop, I want to be in the shop. I would get really angry because I couldn't get in my own shop. Like it was just not okay for me. So I took a year off and we decided instead to do this thing called print camp. So everybody was going to camp there, so we got the tents and it was going to be like an immersive experience and it's 10 days long and we just did one. And it's by application. So that was February. And then I've had Lyme twice and I was like, so the tents look basically like that. So we were going to make this glass front. I just said, okay, we got to have a shower. We got to have a shower because everybody can't traipse into the one shower, right? For camping, it's too hard. Plus, I've had Lyme twice, and I haven't never had a tick here, but I mean, I've seen them. And so I can't have people that are on my property getting Lyme and feel okay about that, particularly, right? And I don't want it either. And so it was a really good excuse to like get a shower. So like this is like about 5 weeks. This is the like live like dogs are chasing you. This is like 5 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 weeks before the workshop started because it had rained a lot. So this is all put up one at a time by this man who's pretty strong. And it ended up looking like this. So it's a bathhouse. There's a bathroom and, you know, I don't know, really, I don't know. And a lot of work on my side. Like, I painted it all. But there's a bathroom and a sink and 2 showers and a changing room. And it's not done, as you can see. So that's the workshop that happened. So we had a critic come in, and that's John Caperton, who was, until recently, at the Print Center. And that's Katie Baldwin, who came as one of the people who was an applicant who got accepted. And they didn't eat outside. They ate inside. But this was just, like, fun, because I wanted a fire pit, because they're cool. And so they camped around the garden in the back, and that's the group of them. And it became like a little commune, like this like intense little commune. And I tried really hard not to take pictures of, you know, look, it's like really bad picture of people leaving. But actually on YouTube you could see like, that's Sarah McDermott, who was here a few weeks ago. And so she was a really good cook. That was a really good thing to be for an application. Like, if you write, I'm a really good cook, that was helpful. And so she could whip up stuff. And so, like, usually around 7, people would gather and kind of throw all their food together. And that was fun. So, back to me for just right now. This is like this spring, right before print camp. I've been trying still to get up to this press, right? Because I can't get past 2 by 3 feet. And I mean, that's pretty big, but I got a press that prints bigger than that, so now what do I do? So I made this big thing, calligraph, and just for scale. I don't even know what to do with it yet. But that didn't work, so I did these drawings. So that what I decided to do, well, drawings / collages, is get bigger than the press. That was my new idea. So if I get bigger than the press, and I make these drawings that are 6 by 6 feet, then then it'll feel like the press is small. And I think it's worked. I'm not sure. So here are the drawings. So they're 6 by 6 feet, and some of the pieces are etching or something. You know, so they're studies. You know, I don't know. They're drawing studies. That's what I call them. For the Baggage Claim Center or some kind of name like that. And they're still on Sekishu. And they've got all kinds of glue, and I think I put Dorlands on the end to seal them. So this is what I just left. So they're up, and I've got some 3 by whatever that is, 3 by 4 foot copper, 2 pieces. And it's like, okay, this is what I'm going back to. And so there's a shot of litho, and those are my drying racks. So the lithos are just drying. I'm doing a reduction litho for something else like that fits into all of this. And there's those 2 little presses, so during the workshop those kind of get pulled out. I don't really need them so much. And that front press is the press I've been using forever. It's a Dickerson combination, and I would, if you can't decide whether you love litho or etching, I would suggest a combination press, a Conrad or a Dickerson. The Takish is really expensive, but that press is turned into a litho press and an etching press so many times, and can roll around and do what I want. So I've had that press 30 years. I mean, it's gone everywhere. It's been in like lots of states. And that's the processing room now, and that's the etching bath, because it's going to have to fit a 3 by 4 foot, or whatever size I just said, plate. And that's it now. So there's the outside. I think this is the last shot. So yeah, the trees, the peaches are rotting unless my husband goes fix them. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh yeah, and then if you wanted to take a picture, you could. That's just because sometimes people do. But I'm on all these things, and you could pretty much just start if you do Printmakers Open Forum, and if you wanted to, you could go to YouTube and their stuff. So that's, I think, the end. Yes. Thank you.